Carl Froch, he was talking about Amir Khan again, and so am I. So much of my video topic matter just seems to be around Amir Khan. And Carl Froch said he's putting Virgil Hunter on a pedestal. He didn't say it in a mean way. Carl Froch is very clever with his wordplay. You know, he managed to conduct the interview in a way that he didn't seem like he was demeaning Khan, but he was. You know, he was basically using Khan's own arrogance against him. Very clever the way he did it. I think Khan's biggest problem is he doesn't accept the blame for a lot of the shit that's happened in his career. Like after the Bradis Prescott fight, he left Oliver Harrison straight away, and we saw how he reacted in the Lamont Peterson fight. Blamed the judges, the guy in the crowd, the referee. After he got knocked out by Garcia, he had a bag full of excuses. He said it was a lucky punch, which doesn't exist. There are no lucky punches. The only punches that could be lucky is if they don't hurt you. You're lucky it didn't hurt you. You know what I mean? And, you know, just holy fuckery, holy fuckery. He doesn't take responsibility, you see. And a lot of people say Muhammad Ali, was arrogant, self-centered. But what they don't realize is, if you watch Ali's reaction after he loses to Joe Frazier, how humble he is, how much praise he has for Joe Frazier. In fact, you don't hear Ali making any complaints or excuses for any of his losses. The only controversy I can think about one of his fights is when he lost to Norton and he got his jaw busted. And there's just a contention between Ali's camp and Norton's camp. If I said Foreman before, I meant Norton. There's just a contention between the two camps. Like Norton's camp, they seem to think that Ali busted his jaw very late in the fight and it didn't really have no significance in Ali losing the fight. While Ali and his camp, they say that the jaw got busted in round 2. And he virtually fought the rest of the 10 or 12 rounder with a busted jaw. But for the most part, when Ali lost to Norton, Frazier, Spinks, Holmes, no excuses. No excuses. None. Graceful. That's because he realizes that throwing blame all about the place is a good way for you not to fix your mistakes, because anything that goes wrong in your life, you can say, well, it was that and that and that, so I don't have to make no adjustments. That's what you can say by doing that. And what he has to realize is he's not Andre Ward. He isn't Andre Ward. Yeah. Andre Ward would have more than likely have made a success of his career with another coach. It would have to be a decent coach. Don't get me wrong. He couldn't just have any coach. But there's no way you're going to tell me that Virgil Hunter is the only coach out there who could have took Andre Ward to where he is. And the reason why that is because the onus is on the fighter. You know, if Andre Ward doesn't want to make a success of it, Virgil Hunter can't do it, Freddie Roach can't do it, Roger Mayweather or Floyd Mayweather Sr., they can't do it. They can't do it. He has to want it. He has to really want it, you know? And it kind of just a point that some veteran around the fight scene, he said something, and it was shortly after I made a video saying basically the same points I'm saying now, where he said that great fighters make great trainers, not the other way around. And you know, There's a ring of truth to that. There might be exceptions that you can point out to me, but there is a ring of truth to that in general. You know. See, what you have to realize is somebody like Andre Ward isn't just a boxer in his gym. He's an asset to the gym. There's young kids in there who are just inspired to be in the same space that he is, and they probably get to see his workouts, and they get to talk to him and get actual live experience from the pound for pound best fighter of our generation. And then they learn what it takes to make it in the ring. Not just in the ring, how to conduct yourself outside of the ring, which is just as vital if you're going to make a success inside the ring. Yeah. It's kind of like when James DeGale flew out to Floyd Mayweather's gym, and he came back just raving about Floyd Mayweather. And there's other British fighters who went out there and they've done the same thing. They've just marveled about Floyd Mayweather. And they haven't spoke much about Roger Mayweather, who does the coaching. And you would assume if they're going out there, they're going to spend more time with the coach than Floyd. Yeah? But, you know, they probably did learn from Roger Mayweather, but let's face it, the focal point of their trip was to see Floyd, not Roger. That's just how that goes, you know what I mean? That's just how that goes. You know what I mean? It comes to that analogy that I can show you better than I can tell you. You didn't hear Joe Louis ever complain about his losses, you know. He didn't complain when he was broke and lost all his money. He didn't complain. Sugar Ray Robinson, you didn't hear him complain about none of his losses, you know. You know, the great Sam Langford, who is said by many to be the pound for pound best fighter ever. He exited the game broke and blind. They found him years later in I don't even know if it was a house, you know what I mean? It's some dark, sort of dim conditions, some grim, dim conditions. When they met Sam, yeah, he was blind. He didn't have much, but he didn't have a trace of bitterness about the way he was treated for title shots or the racism that he experienced. There's nothing, there's none of that. And yeah, they're different times. I mean, we have to understand. We're a lot more spoilt these days. We complain about a lot of shit, and our living conditions were nowhere near as adverse as they was then. That's the truth. The only time you hear Floyd Mayweather Jr. complain is when he doesn't think he's getting his due from the press. You don't ever hear him moaning about Roger. Have you ever heard him moan about Roger Mayweather? Yeah, you've heard him fight with his dad, but his dad wasn't in the camp. He just didn't want him in the gym. It wasn't boxing related, as in terms that you're affecting how I go about what I do in the ring. It wasn't a matter of that. It was just a father and son argument. You know, you see, the thing is, Khan has to be that guy who the young kids are coming to see, like Andre Ward or Floyd Mayweather. He has to be like them. He can't be just running to trainer, expecting them to sprinkle magic dust into his boots. You know, because he has a correlation of behavior in terms of patterns in his career, if you think about it. After he got knocked out by Bradis Prescott, he left Oliver Harrison and he went to the Wildcard gym. At the time, Manny Pacquiao was hot property. This was before the third Marquez fight, which he lost. And it was before the Timothy Bradley fight. You know, at that time, there was credible websites. And the Ring magazine had Floyd and Manny dead level for the top pound for pound spot. In my opinion, he didn't go to the Wildcard gym to be a Freddie Roach. He went there to be around greatness, and that was Pacquiao. The trainer could have been me, you know? It could have been me, the head of the wildcard gym, and he would have said, come and train me, just so you can get near Pacquiao. And that atmosphere of what it's like to be the joint pound for pound best fighter. He wanted to absorb all of that. But that grows old because that's hero worship. That grows old. And there's no substitute for hard work and being an innovator. There's no substitute for that. You know what I'm saying? And he's realized that he can't cook the same chicken that Pacquiao and Roach can cook. So he's moved on. He's moved on now. And if you like, Ward and Virgil Hunter are KFC. They're the top chicken makers. You know what I mean? Are them run the fried chicken industry there. I mean, they got it cornered. They've got it cornered. And Ward is widely recognized as the pound for pound greatest fighter today. So Khan is looking for a new chicken recipe, you know what I mean? He's looking to jump on the bandwagon, you know what I'm saying? Like Carl Frott said, he's literally putting Virgil Hunter on a pedestal. But the truth is, Virgil Hunter is one of the best trainers out there. And I'm sure he's probably had other champions who've had a recognizable belt, but I don't know who they are. Khan has to realize that running to the most popular chicken spot is not always the best solution to get the best chicken. You can fry that shit yourself. You have to develop your own recipes. Yeah. I think fighters probably have to coach their coaches as much as the coaches coach the fighter. That's what I believe, you know. I mean, look, obviously if it's a young fighter, the coach has to blood them into the system of how everything works. But once you get into your stride, man, and you're a pro, and you've had 25 fights or whatever, by that time you should be able to steer the bus yourself to a degree. You should be able to. You know, I'm not saying that, I mean, you're an island, that you do everything by yourself, but you should be self-sufficient. Ricky Hatton, after he lost to Floyd Mayweather, he got rid of his trainer. He apparently didn't pay his trainer big parts of fees from fights. I think he owed him $500,000 from the Floyd fight, or he owed him $1 million. Oh, I can't remember. That's irrelevant. That's irrelevant. The main thing we need to focus on is after the Floyd loss, he started blaming Billy Graham for wrapping his hands wrong, I think, before the Floyd fight, or either in sparring, and that injured Ricky's hands, and that's why his hands were in a bad state. Then he started accusing Billy Graham of being too fragile when Ricky was doing the pad work, and you know, they got the bodysuit to practice the body shots and shit like that. That Billy Graham couldn't stand the pain anymore. But how comes none of this was a problem when he was undefeated? But as soon as he lost the fight, all of this shit became a problem. All of this shit became a problem. And he was throwing Billy Graham under the bus. And then when he fought Pacquiao, and he rushed out like a madman because the crowd started screaming, you know what I mean, that song, one Ricky Hatton shit, you know what I mean. He just flew across the ring at Manny, no defense against a fighter who can punch fairly well and has good hand speed, you know what I mean. Like, Manny has some of the fastest hands in the game. You don't just rush into somebody like that because he has quick reactions. Yeah, you can pick out a lot of defects in the guy's style, But if Manny sees an opening, he knows how to take it. And I don't care if you're a Flomo and you don't acknowledge that, you need to step off this page for a start, you know what I mean? All of us need to step away from that shit, this fanboy shit, and just deal with the facts. But yeah, he just rushed in. And that was after Floyd Sr. and Ricky were watching videos of Pacquiao doing the same move when he'd throw a left hook and then he'd duck under the potential counter that was coming, which would probably be a right hand. And you see Floyd and Ricky sitting down, and we see Ricky repeatedly commenting with enthusiasm. And he's saying, yeah, look, there he goes. Left hook, duck, left hook, duck, left hook, duck. And Ricky seems to be taking confidence that, yeah, they seem to have found a chink in his armor that they can exploit, that they have a counter for that move. And he's with Floyd, and we're watching a video. They seem to have a happy training camp. Look, for all I know, that could have been a front, but it seems like they, just from that clip, they worked something out that they could try and implement on fight night. The camp seemed like it was going well. When the fight started, he just ran into Manny. He just steamed in. And he paid the price. He paid the price. It was a bad knockout. It was a bad knockout. Afterwards, Floyd was furious. He was saying that he repeatedly told Ricky, don't just rush in there. Don't just rush in there. Use your defense. And the telling thing is, regardless of all the negative allegations that Ricky threw at Floyd Sr. in terms of being incompetent as a trainer, he never once tried to refute what Floyd said about the defense, about not just rushing in there. Use your defense, use your defense. He never tried to refute that. We know that was true. That bit we know was true. The way I see it, let's say everything Ricky allegedly is claiming that Floyd Sr. was incompetent about. Let's say he was right. Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. Everything Ricky said was right. Let's put it like this. Even if everything Ricky said is right and it's the truth, how does he explain the way he fought on the night, the way he just rushed out like he was in the pub with a lad screaming his name? How does he explain that? He can't explain that. He can't explain that. All he can do is blame Floyd. And his new coach, me and Errol Jarrett was discussing, his name's Sheridan, we was discussing his credibilities, and I can't remember hearing nothing much about him, you know what I mean? And this time around, in this comeback, Ricky will not be afforded the luxury of blaming his trainer. And here's why. Before Ricky embarked on this comeback, he was training fighters. So he has no excuse. He knows what it takes. Or I'm not saying he knows what it takes, but the fact that he was a trainer, he has no excuse. He has no excuse at all. He can't blame anybody. If he's training fighters, if you're saying that you're a trainer, any boxing fan with knowledge has to assume that you know how to train yourself. So he doesn't have that excuse now. That excuse he doesn't have. He can say his body's breaking down on him or something like that, but he can't blame the training camp no more. Can't do that. I saw Carcino, a video with Carcino and Sean from Boxing Socialists, and they had a pro fighter in there, a young dude. And I think he just came off a controversial loss. It was quite a controversial loss by the accounts of what they was saying in the vid. And it was asking him, well, what are you going to do next with your career? What's your training camp like? And what's your coach like? And what do you need to succeed? And he says, well, I just need this and that and this from the coach. And for the most part, I can handle the rest myself. Now, it's not really important if this guy makes it to a championship or an elite fighter. It doesn't really matter if he gets to that level or not. The whole point is, he has an independent attitude. Maybe his calling is not to be a championship boxer, but he can take that attitude where he's not afraid to take his own destiny in his own hands, and he can apply it to something else in a different career choice, and he'll be successful in his own right. Because there's no better feeling as an adult as independence in your home life, your career. There is no better feeling. That's true freedom. That's as much freedom as you can experience under a capitalistic system that most of us live in. You know what I mean? That's the most you can expect to get out of that. You know, freedom is often a double-sided, you know what I mean, or double-edged knife, or whatever analogy you can put to that. There's a lot of gray areas on that word. It's not just cut and dry. Being your own boss is important. Amir Khan went to the wildcard gym and he tried to be Manny Pacquiao Mark II. Until people were saying, oh, look how similar they are. They just attack and attack. Only thing is, Manny can hold a couple of shots on the whiskers, and so far, Amir showed us that he can't really do that. You know what I mean? That's not him. I don't want to turn this into a Khan bashing. I'm just trying to make a point that great fighters don't need to pass the buck, don't need to pass on the blame. And yeah, sometimes great fighters make excuses, but they don't want to get a reputation for doing that. I don't see Kell Brook, I don't see Nathan Cleverly ever having that sort of like boss status. The closest fighter to having that kind of status in the UK is your boy Carl Froch. You know what I mean? Because he's very single-minded. He's not like, you're not going to ever see him, right, I've got to go to the wildcard gym, I have to go to Virgil Hunter. And look, let's not get this twisted. He'd probably benefit from going to Virgil Hunter. He would probably really benefit from that. But he's stubborn. He's stubborn. He's doing it his way. And I get this impression that he's proud that he's got a British trainer in Robert McCracken. And he's doing moderately well at world level. You know what I mean? To a degree, he's doing moderately well with a British trainer. He hasn't ran to Freddie Roach or Virgil Hunter or Nassim Richardson or whoever's name is in vogue across the pond. You know what I'm saying? Right? And you know what I mean? It doesn't matter if it doesn't work. It doesn't matter if it doesn't work as well as if he went to Virgil Hunter. The whole point is he has his own setup with Robert McCracken. He's not jumping into a next man's setup expecting for everything to jump off like how it does for Manny Pacquiao or Andre Ward. You know what I'm saying? The two times Amir Khan has faced major adversity in his career, what has he done? He's ran to a coach who had a stable, that had a fighter who was a major contender for the pound-for-pound best title, both times. That's a man who's reaching.
Here's a combination uppercut by Tyson. Tyson laying it on, pouring it on. Down goes Bruno into the ropes. And it is all over. It is all over here in round 3. Mike Tyson is champion.
Some fighters need to maybe not so much have their training camp dedicated to them, but now Mike Tyson is a different sort of case. He was indoctrinated by Costamato. As Mike said, that Costamato just kept feeding him with these platitudes, these great, powerful, potent platitudes, and telling Mike, yo, you are great. Not that you will be great, you are great. And Mike started believing it. and he had access to Jim Jacobs' Jim Jacobs had the biggest fight collection in the world. He had a massive, vast, like that was one of Tyson's first managers is Jim Jacobs, and he had that vast, vast film collection. And Tyson just used to study all of the ring legends and the classic fights. He was living and breathing that shit. Yeah. He didn't get a chance to establish doing shit his own way because he was there from when he was 13, 14. He didn't get a chance to develop the Mike Tyson show. And I'm not saying it was necessarily a bad thing because we saw the results. He was knocking everything out in devastating fashion. So it was effective. It was very effective until he became an adult. And he said to himself, well, I'm not a boy no more. I don't want Bill Caton and these guys talking to me like this no more. I don't want to do it this way. I'm going to do it this way. And then he had Don King in his ear, who didn't seem to respect the groundwork that was put into developing Tyson. He didn't seem to respect that. And Tyson, to a degree, was fairly easily led. And the telltale signs was when Kevin Rooney was kicked out of the picture. And Bill Caton, because Kevin Rooney wasn't the greatest trainer, but he was indoctrinated into the custom model system. He knew what worked for Mike. They had that number system when he was training. Like Rooney would just call out 10-8, and then Tyson knew that was the right hook to the body and right uppercut to the head. So he'd buff 10-8. Then you'd get 7-6. And that might be, I don't know, a 1-2, a straight left and a right. I don't know. You know what I mean? But they had numbers. There was certain numbers for certain combinations and certain punches. And that was indoctrinated from a long time. They used to have that head bag that was like a pendulum, and it used to spin behind Mike's head, and you'd have to duck it and as he moved his head back and forth. They had all that shit there. And that was to encourage Mike not to neglect his head movement, And when he had was it Jay Bright? Oh, God, I can't remember who it was, man. Like, shit, man. It wasn't their fault, really, but Tyson was like a fish out of water. And before the Douglas loss, we saw he just gave up on head movement even before that. Like the Frank Bruno fight, he won the fight, but by that time he gave up on the head movement and the jab. Tyson was a great jabber, even though he was very short. He had great timing, and he knew when to throw it. He was a devastating body puncher, but all of a sudden he turned into a headhunter. So if you really think about it, Tyson's explosive reign, which lasted about 4 years, it crumbled because he didn't know what to do when he was separated from what he knew from a boy. Everything he learnt seemed to go to waste because he couldn't adjust to developing his skills outside the environment where he felt the most comfortable ever in his life, more than likely, you know what I mean? When he was training at the Catskill Mountains, he had purpose in his life, you know what I mean? He had something to get up for. He was almost like a soldier when he was with Cuss. And when he left that environment, it's almost like a soldier leaving the battlefield and having to deal with civilian life, you know what I mean? The mundane realities of civilian life. It's almost like that. Mike didn't have to pay bills, wash his clothes, wash dishes, and do chores. No. Mike just had to eat, train, and fight. And you know what I mean, I'm probably doing a bit too much self-analyzing on someone I don't know. I probably am, but you know, Mike would probably agree with me and say, yeah, that was probably the most stable and happy period of what was or what appeared to be a very troubled childhood. You know what I mean? I mean, the loss of Costamato. I mean, it's a hard one to analyze, man. But you have to think that he probably wanted it more than Mike did. You know what I'm saying? At least in the early years of their relationship, he probably wanted the success that Mike eventually went on to have more than Mike did. So when he died, I don't know, maybe Tyson thought, well, you know, this was Cuss's dream, you know what I mean? It's my dream now, but it's my adopted dream. So I don't know how much of that Costamato spirit left Mike when Costamato died. I don't know. It's hard to say. But you see, Cuss wasn't any ordinary man. He was the dude who stood up to the mob when they used to run boxing in the 60s, almost single-handedly. He wasn't no ordinary man. He trained Floyd Patterson to the championship. Floyd Patterson was really just a middleweight, you know? His camp was like, wow, the Catskill Mountains. That's where he used to train, the Catskill Mountains. And like, he had Jim Jacobs. I think Jim Jacobs was a world champion at softball or something. So you know, he was a formidable man in his own right. You know, I think he was. Yeah, I think he was. And he had that film library, the biggest fight film library in the world. You know, he had a lot of good grounding. And no disrespect to Don King, yeah, but and let's get this straight. Costamato wasn't this saintly person who was trying to save this poor black kid from Brownsville. You know, he had his own motivations and he had his own agenda. There's no doubt about that. But Don King, it was just a financial thing for him. You know what I mean? Like Cuss I don't think Cuss was really bothered about the money. I don't think he was. I think he just wanted to have a champion. And obviously the money's nice, you get what I'm saying? That contrast in between the two characters of Costamato and Don King was the probably telling difference in Mike's deterioration. Maybe he could have coped outside the environment, but he would have needed someone not just trying to stick him for his paper. You know what I mean? Like Biggie said, you get what I'm saying? Maybe he could have done, but he needed someone who was thinking on a long-term basis. You know what I'm saying? And let's not get it twisted. The Costamato era was a lot of smoke and mirrors. Yeah. Cuss, when he's spoken about in terms of Mike Tyson, is almost like a mythical, saintly figure. But if you're going to play a dad, whether that's a biological or a surrogate dad to a son, if your son does something bad, like he's a naughty boy, you have to take some kind of action of reprimand to let him know where he stands. Yeah. And Teddy Atlas will tell you, Cuss let Tyson get away with a lot of shit. With a lot of shit. And if you let boys just get away with anything and they think they can do anything they like and still get rewarded for bad behavior because they're good at sport, you're setting them up for a massive fail in manhood. You get what I'm saying? So the easy thing to do is always get stuck into Don King and how he fucked up Mike Tyson. But the intentions of Costamato may seem noble, and they were noble to a degree. You know what I mean? In a romantic novel in a book sort of way. In the practicalities of raising a young black male. No, not quite really. Mike was being used equally by Custom Auto as he was by Don King, in all truth. You know what I mean? The Custom Auto thing was a lot of smoke and mirrors. Like, they were letting Tyson get away with a lot of things, and they were covering up a whole heap of shit as well. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people were allegedly paid off, so a lot of shit didn't come to the attention of the media. You see, I'm just catching my train of thought back up. The money was important. The money was very important because Tyson had a very carefully stage-managed image in his early days as a contender and a champion. You know what I'm saying? Like, they tried to make out that Tyson was the perfect gentleman and this and that, and he's not the first person to do it. I'm not trying to make out Mike is some evil person, because they've done the same thing with Sugar Ray Leonard. Like, they hid a lot of his flaws, and that was to protect their endorsements and sponsorship deals, and that was the same with Mike. Like, when Mike started getting in trouble, I do remember him losing a couple of endorsements and stuff like that. And if my memory serves me correctly, I think we're talking about Coca-Cola or Pepsi. I mean, them kind of endorsements, you really want to ride out until the wheels fall off, because the amount of revenue that you can cake off on that is like, say no more. You know? And by the time Bill Caton was out of the picture and Jim Jacobs died, when Jim Jacobs died, that was the last thread that held Tyson onto the Custom Auto era. That was the last thread. You know what I mean? And when he went with Don King, it seemed like he wasn't even trying to hide his flaws anymore. And you know what I'm saying? And he's come around 360 now. Mike seems to be balanced. He seems to be a balanced person. You see, the things that Cuss wouldn't allowed Mike to do was, when he lost to Douglas, he wouldn't have probably tried to turn the decision around like Don King did. He would have probably said, look, Mike, you have to take this loss and we come back. But Don King, he don't give a fuck. My man tried to take Douglas's victory away from him. You know what I mean? Because of the long count and that shit. And yeah, well, the count might have went a little over, but, you know, it's a prize fight, man. You know what I mean? You don't always get counts exactly right, you know what I'm saying? And there's no body of evidence to support a conspiracy theory that the referee was a part of. It was just human error. It was just human error. Although I will say, because I didn't hear the result until Sunday morning. Living in England, we didn't even get to see that shit live, man. You know what I'm saying? I had to wait probably a day or so before I could get a tape of it. You know what I mean? And it was the worst sporting news that I heard in my life. No, it was even worse than witnessing Tottenham lose cup finals and shit like that. It was even worse than that. Douglas was dominating the fight, and he deserved his win. Don King nearly reversed the decision. He nearly reversed it, but the country was in uproar. A big percent, you know what I mean, that when he was doing it, he couldn't do it. He couldn't get away with it. He couldn't get away with that. Not even Don King could get away with that. You know what I mean? He got Tyson to agree to try and reverse the decision. And I saw a film with Michael J. White, and I don't know how accurate it was, but you could see that Tyson didn't want to do that. He was saying, well, Don, I lost. There's nothing to protest. But King was just adamant. You know what I mean?
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
And then you have Lennox Lewis. In this scenario, in this case, I'm gonna give Lennox a pass for jumping trainers. The first loss that Lennox suffered was against Oliver McCall. Lennox had the WBC belt. He gained this belt when Riddick Bowe threw the belt in the bin, I think, rather than defend against Lennox or some politics like that. You know, Riddick threw the belt in the bin. Him and Rock Newman didn't want nothing to do with it. And it was similar to Ken Norton, the way Lennox obtained the belt. And he had a few defenses. I think he took on Frank Bruno, Tony Tucker, and I'm not sure if he had the Phil Jackson fight before the events I'm going to explain. But, I mean, he defended a few times. And his next defense was against Oliver McCall. Right? Now, look, Oliver McCall was Mike Tyson's chief sparring partner. Right? Oliver McCall fights up till today. Up till today he fights. And he's never been flawed. He's never really been hurt badly in a fight. The only time he got stopped was in the rematch against Lennox Lewis when he had a nervous breakdown in the ring. And Lewis was punching him when he couldn't see him. My man was crying in the ring, punching him in his head. And he had this is the first time I've seen it. The man had a nervous fucking breakdown in the ring. Right? Oliver McCall, his jaw it's beyond granite. It's beyond granite. Beyond granite. Right? You're talking of this thick, brolic, strong, you know what I mean? One of the strongest heavyweights, you know what I mean? Like in terms of being able to take punches and just stand there with you and test you. One of the most, he's got to be a top contender in gatekeepers. Top 10 gatekeepers. I might have to do a list of top 10 gatekeepers soon. Right? He's got to be in there. Right? And he's got a powerful punch. He's got a powerful punch. And he's a former champion. He's a former champion. Now, I'm watching this fight on Saturday. And the first round goes by. And, look, I'm not going to pretend that I foresaw the event was going to happen. Because I didn't foresee it. Right? But the first round went by. Lennox could have shaded it. Fairly even. Lennox probably shaded it. One thing I observed, though, is this guy missed with a few big swings. Narrowly. And, you know, it's almost like I could feel the wind of the punches, even through the television. And the back of my head was saying, boy, let's hope Lennox boxes carefully here, because this ain't no fucking Muppet in front of him. You know what I mean? Right? You get what I'm saying, right? Let's hope he boxes carefully. So the first round ends. Lennox goes back to his corner. This guy, Pepe Correa, right? He's supposed to have a little reputation. I can't remember what he really done before that. I mean, I think he used to fuck with Sugar Ray Leonard at some stage. You know what I mean? As a trainer, I think. But to me, he was more a cheerleader than a trainer. This was his advice to Lennox against this bull-necked, granite-jawed, hard-punching. No. Now, let's get this straight. Most skilled heavyweights in the 80s or 90s, the top level skilled heavyweights, should and would more than likely beat Oliver McCall on points. Yeah? But it's a fight where you couldn't take any chances. Because more than likely, if he doesn't knock you out, the fight's going to go the distance. That's just how it was. Man's chin was just indestructible. Pepe Correa tells Lennox Lewis, go out there and knock this bum out. And you see, this is why I give Lennox a pass in this fight. Because Lennox is still relatively young. I think he could have been about 28 at the time, to be honest with you. But in terms of his development, he was still, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it wrong. But it was early days in his inclination to world-class heavyweight boxing. Let's just say that. And it's like I said, when a pro boxer is in the early stages fighting at world-class level, you need your coach to blood you in. Unless you're a really precocious talent and You just Floyd Mayweather your way through it. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Or Henry Armstrong or them guys. Or Sugar Ray Robinson. Or Ray Leonard. Yeah? Muhammad Ali. You need your coach to blood you in and give you sound and not irrational advice. So the second round comes out. I see Lennox throwing these lazy jabs and not getting his hand back in time quick enough to protect his chin. And you can see McCall is just looking for a big hook. Lennox walks in, throwing big shots without setting them up. And he falls right into the line of McCall's right hand. You know what I mean? Lennox goes down. And some people said it was a controversial stoppage, but you go look at it and you see Lennox's legs. You tell me if that was controversial. The referee had to stop it. The referee had to stop it, you know? And I remember reading the boxing news. I remember reading the American publications, probably The Ring or KO magazine or whatever it was at the time. I remember watching Sky Sports when Sky Sports was really good, and they had the inquest of what happened to Lennox Lewis. And basically the grassroots people knew that this guy's a cheerleader. How can you be telling your heavyweight champion in a fight with so much at stake, go knock the bum out? Mike Tyson's chief sparring partner. This guy who's never been stopped. This danger man. Because he already had some upset wins on his ledger already. He was not a man to be slept on. He had a fierce reputation in the gym, right? You get what I'm saying? This was not a man that you fuck about with. And you're telling him to go out there and knock the bum out? What bum? There's no bum there. I've got to stick with the theme of the video. I can't just throw Pepe Correa under the bus. Lennox knew that this guy, he probably knew in himself that this guy just doesn't suit my temperament as a trainer. So Lennox has to take all the burden because it's him in the ring. You know what I mean? Pepe Correa is not in BoxRec. Lennox has to take all of the burden. Right? But I'm just reporting the facts. You know what I'm saying? There's no doubt Lennox is the franchise. Lennox takes the hit. Lennox takes the fall. But in this case, he's justified for jumping trainer. He is definitely justified for jumping trainer. Yeah? And the reason why it's justified in hindsight is because when he went with Manuel Stewart, he just became a lot more of an efficient fighter. Yeah? And Emmanuel Stewart just had the right balance. Like, Lennox was becoming a great box fighter, sometimes a little too cautious. But that's where Emmanuel Stewart just had the right balance, because sometimes he would just get in Lennox's grill. Come on, man, what the fuck, man? You're jabbing this guy to death. Knock him out. Knock him out. Take the guy out. Because I don't care what nobody wants to say. I don't think, you see, I saw all of Lennox's fights. I know how good Lennox was. People try and say, oh, Lennox was shit. He got knocked out twice. Yeah, he avenged both losses. And he took on whoever was there. And it was Riddick Bowe who ducked Lennox. As good as Riddick was, Riddick ducked Lennox. Let's get that straight. He threw the belt in the bin so he wouldn't have to fight Lennox. Right? Lennox was a great heavyweight. Lennox would get periods when he was boxing where he would toy with you. He was so good with the jab that if he was in the mood, he could just pin you with that jab. And you couldn't do nothing about it. So some of the bouts almost became repetitive as Lennox just toyed with you like a cat with a mouse, literally. And Manuel Stewart would have to balance out Lennox's temperament and say, look, man, come on, man. That's enough jabbing now. Knock the guy out. Take him out now. But you see, the thing is Lennox didn't go to Emmanuel Stewart thinking that Manny could sprinkle some magic dust. The magic dust, yeah? You know, he knew what had to be done. He knew what had to be done. And that's why he remained cautious, even when Emmanuel Stewart was saying, come on, dude, because he knew what had to be, but he knew he couldn't afford to change his temperament that much. He knew he needed a great trainer, but he knew he had to own a lot of what he had before that. He couldn't just be an Emmanuel Stewart clone. He had to be Lennox Lewis. So he brought what he had to the table, he added it to some of what Manny had, and that's what you got. But, to me, Khan seems to be going to trainers, expecting them to do a $6 million man job on him. And, I don't know if you can do that. I'm not sure if Amir Khan's family. I'm not sure. I mean, I've got no proof of that. But Errol Jarrett will be able to tell you that his family came in between his relationship with his first trainer, his first professional trainer, Oliver Harrison. Errol Jarrett will have more details on the story than I do. Yeah? And his family was getting involved in their relationship. You get what I'm saying? Maybe that's something he needs to look into himself, Go and see your family when it's family gatherings and dinner time. But, get professionals to give you advice on career decisions. And if you are going to use family, you better make sure that they're reading their books on whatever the department they're dealing with. They need to be competent, you know what I'm saying? Can't be going up to trainers and say, well, you should be doing this because you mean, what do you know about it? You haven't studied this shit. You know what I mean? Sometimes that family shit in the boxing. You saw what happened to Andre Berto when he fought Victor Ortiz and his dad and his brother was in the corner. That was a mess. Mosley, Shane Mosley and his dad Jack. There was conflicts there. I think Roy Jones had a little ting with his father. Obviously Floyd Sr. and Floyd Jr. I think Chavez Jr. knows that he just can't be as good as his father. And it's almost like an anchor around his neck, especially seeing him there and Senior's giving him advice. He's like, Dad, what do you want me to do? I can't fight like you. Let me go and bun some weed. Chris Eubanks Jr., he's got potential. He has got potential, There's no doubt about it. He has got potential. I'm not really going to judge him by his out-of-the-ring antics talking about James DeGill. Fighters, successful fighters, need a few idiosyncrasies, that sometimes just the common people like myself probably don't get. You get what I'm saying? They need that. So he's still trying to find his stick outside the ring that identifies him. He's still trying to get that. He's obviously influenced by his dad. I've observed that he might be trying to be like his dad. But looking back at what I said, why wouldn't he try to be like his dad? His dad was very successful at what he did. So that was kind of short-sighted of me. I'm just acknowledging that now. But you see Broner and his dad, but they have fun. You know what I mean? It's not, son, you got to do this. You know what I mean? Yo, pops, comb my hair. I like Adrian, bro. I don't give a shit what nobody says. He's having fun. He works hard at what he does, and that's a good look. And you can see Adrian Broner in a few years' time. You can see in a few years' time down the line that there's going to be young kids, man. I want to train with Adrian Broner, man. Yeah, I'm saying you can see that. Because people want to say that he's a Floyd clone. Look, biting somebody's rap style is totally different from biting somebody's boxing style, right? That's how I know some people are really stupid. You know what I mean? We've heard stories where kids have tried the shoulder roll and got knocked the fuck out. Yeah? No, you gotta know what you're doing. You've got to know what you're doing. When Mike Tyson came in the game, how many fighters did we see come in the ring with black trunks and no socks and black boots and tried to fight like Mike and just ended up taking a whole heap of punishment and getting beaten up? I remember watching a video in the 80s, right? He was a professional boxing coach. And he said he noticed, not only in his gym, but in fights, a lot of fighters were getting knocked out. Why? Why was that? Because they were fighting with their hands down, trying to be like Ali. This isn't the same as Gorilla Black trying to sound like Biggie. This is not the same thing. It's not the same thing. That's not authentic to bite somebody's rap style or how they sing. That's not authentic. Yeah? Because how you represent your rap style is the individual's signature to your work, basically. While a boxer's signature is really his legacy. And you might argue and say, well, his style is his signature. Well, it's not really, because the guy who invented the bolo punch is not Kid Galavan. Ask Reef from Newark, he'll tell you it's not Kid Galavan. I can't remember the guy's name. The guy who invented it wasn't an elite fighter. He was just, he was relatively not mediocre. I don't want to say that because he invented the punch. But he was down the rankings. He was way, way, way down the levels. Yeah? Kid Galavan, the Cuban fighter, you know, who wore the flashy suits, the welterweight champion. See, I know his resume. Yeah? He's the one who eulogized the punch and made it famous because he had a world title behind him. And he was known to be in really exciting fights. Right? His legacy and his resume lives on. The guy who invented the punch, yeah, it's good trivia to talk about. But his boxing career is not a point of topic when we're ranking fighters. Yeah? Kid Galavan is widely thought as the person who invented the punch because he made it famous. So the resume is all important, not the style. You can't gauge the quality of music by sales. You just can't, because there's so many genres. Some just doesn't sell as much. Some music is not there for commercial purposes to be sold. Yeah? That's why you have so many genres. You pick what you like and it is what it is. You might have several categories you like. Yeah? You don't judge music by sales. It never has been. Right? All that sound scan talk, that's record label jargon. But boxing, there is actually parameters and bars set. There are relatively quantifiable measures we can use. Man, I'm using some long words. To determine who's the best. And don't get me wrong, boxing is a mess. More often than not, boxing kicks its own self in the ass with all its belts and just a lot of stupidness, you know. And it makes it harder for us to have a reliable guide on the rankings. But there's more a structure to see who is who and where they should be in boxing than there is music, you know. Even if you just look at the pound for pound ratings list. Like, even Andre Ward's biggest detractors are not going to list him no lower than 4 or 5. And if they do, you can't really take their opinions seriously no more. That's the truth. That is the truth. Anyone who rates Andre Ward anywhere below 3, I'm going to say 3, 4 or 5, their opinion is stricken off the record. I can't take what they're saying seriously, and neither should you. And like, I'm reading the Ring Magazine website while I read this out, and I don't agree with everything the Ring says. And if you really think about it, like your top 5 pound for pound, generally, these 10 fighters I'm going to read out from the Ring's pound for pound top 10 are the names that you can debate should be in there or not, right? So here we go. You can have Floyd, Manny Pacquiao, Andre Ward, Sergio Martinez, Nonito Donaire, Juan Manuel Marquez, maybe a Klitschko in there, a Tim Bradley, Vitaly Klitschko, I don't want to butcher his name, I'll just say surname, Moreno. And yeah, there might be a few exceptions who you might want to put in there. You might even want to put a Miguel Cotto in there, you know what I mean? There's a few fighters who we might debate could go in there. But if you say someone like David Haye should be in there, we have to kind of say, look, he hasn't done enough right now to deserve to be in there. Yeah? We can't put David Haye in there just because you like him. I'm a big fan of David Haye. But, you know, how seriously can we take you if you're going to try and put him in the rankings for what he's done as a heavyweight compared to what a lot of other fighters have done? I mean, before the Vladimir loss, you could maybe argue a case for David Haye to be in the top 10. But even then, who did he defend against? Audley Harrison and John Ruiz. Ruiz was washed up. But you could argue the case. But right now, no, you can't argue the case. You could maybe argue a case for Lucas Matisse. You could argue a case for him. Perhaps Adrian Broner. And I'm sure you've got other guys in your mind now thinking, yeah, I could argue a case for him. And this guy and this guy. I'm not going to go for all of them, you know what I mean? But you get the gist. But most of us know, even if you're a big Canelo fan, no, Canelo, no. Can't put him in the top 10. Not now. No way. However you construct your 5 out of all the names I said there, you should at least have a few of them names in there. Yeah, you can't have fighters I've never heard of in there. Or your opinion has to be stricken off the record in terms of doing the pound for pound rankings, yeah? Obviously, like I stated, exceptions to the rule withstanding. Whatever order you put them in, that's what we like to debate about as boxing fans. But, you know, I mean, music. Let's take the females, for instance. Who's the best? Nicki Minaj? Lady Gaga? Rihanna? How do you determine it? The best songs? Who sold the most? Which one do I want to bang the most? You know what I'm saying? Rihanna. All right. But, right. Do you get what I'm saying? It's a subjective endeavor. That's what that is. Yeah? I mean, when's the last time you went to your friend's house and said, man, you can't have that CD in your collection. It's not worthy of being in there. You know, it doesn't work like that. It just doesn't work like that. Adrian Broner is a great talent, and he can't win. He can't win for the want of people wanting him to lose. People have complained that he's too much like Floyd, and now he's recently said he would smash Floyd in a fight. They're saying, oh, you can't say that against the great Floyd Mayweather. So what is it? What can he do? What can he do? What can he say? Yeah? Then they complain he's not fighting anybody. Well, he's called out a host of names. Called out DeMarco. When DeMarco was asked about the fight, I saw it. He seemed very sheepish in saying, yeah, he would fight Broner. He said yes, but that was to save face. Now, apparently, the negotiations are stalling. Right? And I shouldn't have to do this. Because I tried to keep it strictly based on boxing. But then people try to besmirch his character, saying he's this and he's that. But I know he got into a few scrapes on the street, but man, I mean, he's in the hoods in America. Fucking hell. I mean, what black kid doesn't go through some shit out there? I mean, even here, when I tell people where I'm from and I say I haven't been to jail, they're like, what? Doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? They can't believe it. You know what I mean? But the thing is, nobody can bring up any scenario or incident where Adrian Broner has been falling out in a club, drunk, fighting, caught with weed, you know. He hasn't even been in as much trouble as Paris Hilton or Lindsay Lohan, for fuck's sake. You know what I'm saying? But yet, people besmirch his character, and they try to make out he's this unsavory person. Why? Because he does the Dougie with his friends and wears colorful clothes. Is this the world that we want our young people to be in, where they can't even express themselves? I'm an old boy, but you know, the day you start just taking kids' expression away because you're so fucking boring and tired and jaded, shoot me in my fucking head and lay me in the ground, because I just don't. I don't want to be in that world. I want to be part of it. I know I'm a fucking whinging old fucking fart bag, but I'm not so out of touch to realize some of the shit you older people, oh man, they're blaming their kids for why they can't move forward in the world. There's no other race who does it, and it just makes you look like weak, middle-aged farts. You know what I mean? With melanin. That's what it makes you look like. And Adrian Broner recently said, I don't spend a lot of money. I invest my money. He recently said, I don't want no big entourage, because he realizes the trouble that can bring. Adrian Broner doesn't have the problems with his ego that you guys are saying. You are the guys who have the problem. You are the ones who need the ego check, not Broner. Let me tell you that now. If I had a son, Adrian Broner would be a great role model, in my opinion. In my opinion, he'd be a great role model. As for biting Floyd style, well, come on, you know what I mean? Come on, dude. I mean, somebody even pointed out the other day that Floyd took James Toney's style. I'm not sure if that's true. I don't think it's really true. But yeah, he could have watched James Toney and be influenced, but why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? But who was James Toney influenced by? I mean, he's got that kind of murderer's row style from the 40s and 50s. He got, you know what I mean? That, you know, which a lot of African American fighters were bringing to the table. You know, that counter punching using your shoulder and shit like that to weave some of the shot. Them, you know, it's called evolution. I think Darwin said. You get what I'm saying? You know what I mean? How do you want him to fight? It's 2012. I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, like, the Mexicans have a certain style. We know that and we acknowledge that. But anytime I say that black fighters have a certain style, it seems to become a contentious point where people are looking at me like I'm this mad black separatist leader or something. You know? African Americans, I mean, have a certain style. Not all of them, but, you know, there is a group who have a certain sort of slick boxing style. It's no different to the 80s when Brendan Ingle had his gym. And the fighters out of there, they had a certain style. Errol Graham, Prince Nassim, Slugger O'Toole, who was a black guy. I don't know how he ended up with that name in it, right? And a few other fighters, they had that hands by their waist, you know, elusive shit, you know. For the most time, it didn't get much of them very far. Prince Nassim did all right with it. Harold Graham, you could say, I mean, he was moderately successful. But that's how it goes. Certain pockets and groups and ethnicities and cultures bring a certain thing to the table. We see the resurgence in 100-meter sprinting in Jamaica. You know what I'm saying? It's just how it goes. And the African Americans, it's called the Philly show, man. And they're not talking about Philadelphia fighters like Rocky. They're not. You know what I mean? It's called the Philly. It's in the title. You know what I mean? God, it's difficult sometimes, you know, because there are certain eras and certain subculture groups who have a spell where they do certain things really well. Like the heavyweight division, for instance, you know, that was dominated by black fighters from Joe Louis days up till recently, where the Eastern Europeans are having their resurgence. But isn't it funny, when I point that out, when I point out that, man, the Eastern European heavyweights are the dominant force in boxing right now. The white European heavyweights are the dominant force. Nobody comes out and says, man, that's fucking racist, man. Why are you trying to fucking separate? Nobody says that. Nobody fucking says that. You know? Nobody's going to say I'm a racist for that. But if I point out that African Americans have implemented a certain style that is, for the majority, exclusive to them, then it's a problem. Why is that?
Information we get today is just whack. But ask yourself, why is that?
The fight lasted less than a minute. With their 5-man advantage, Dinamo were declared the winners. 4 Shakhtar Ultras needed hospital treatment. One had a broken jaw, and Marek, highlighted here, was in obvious pain. The Donetsk company are racists obsessed with violence. Their travel advice for black and Asian England supporters is stay at home.
And before I end out, David Haye is not going to the Ukraine, not because he's afraid of Vitaly Klitschko. He is wisely not going to the Ukraine because they have a serious problem with neo-Nazism. These are things that we knew about, but they came to the forefront in Europe in the event of the 2012 European Championships, which the Ukraine and Poland both jointly hosted. Now, in the build-up, they were showing a lot of TV footage, a lot of all these different cells of neo-Nazi activity, where they were threatening to murder and kill any blacks or Asians who came and supported teams in the European Championships. They was training. They was actually working out and training and sharpening up knives and trying to get ammunition. That's what they were doing. Not specifically just for the European Championships, but they're training for a race war in these places. They're on it. It's not a fucking joke. It's not no fucking joke. This neo-Nazi ideology in a lot of these Eastern European countries, oh my, and the Ukraine is the hotbed right now. It's the hotbed. So before you make your video, you need to do a little research. If you want to go out there, you're free to go. David Haye has kids and a wife and a family. He can't just fly in there on the night and fight, because if he could, yeah, just for that one night, he might be able to string together enough security and get out of there in safety. But either way, it's just not an ideal circumstance or situation that you want to challenge for somebody's heavyweight title. If you can't see that, then, you know, it's a waste of time, I suppose. It's a waste of time, you know, because he can't just fly in there. If he's fighting Vitaly Klitschko in the Ukraine, he needs at least 2 or 3 weeks to acclimatize and get over the jet lag so he can prepare himself properly. Yeah, that's 21 days he's got to focus on a fight, and whether one of these fucking morons, these racist fucking moron piece of shits, come and try and kill him. David Haye, former cruiserweight champion of the world. No, let me give this guy his proper billing. Former undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. He went to France and took out the WBC champion Mormek on his own turf and knocked him out. And he was a heavy underdog. He went to France and did that. He went to Germany, right, in the adopted hometown of Nikolai Valuev, and he outpointed him, and he took his WBA belt. He went to Germany again, the adopted hometown of Vladimir Klitschko, and he fought him. Okay, he didn't win the fight, but he went over there to fight. He wasn't scared to go over there. And the crowd was hostile. He struggled to get into the ring. He struggled to get in there. And he fought him. I mean, look, if you want to go over there, and I mean, it's up to you. You want a holiday over in the Ukraine? It's up to you, dog. I could give you a holiday brochure and find you a lot better spots where you can holiday all around the world without the threat of these moronic devils. I don't believe in devils. I just like calling them that. I'm used to doing it now. I don't actually believe in that shit. But yeah, I could find you a lot better spots around the world where you can holiday or pursue your profession or career. You get what I'm saying? And the weather's not too good over there either. The bigger question is how is the heavyweight division so weak that David Haye can defeat a relatively inexperienced heavyweight in Derek Chisora, who lost 3 out of his last 4. One of the bouts was controversial, and he put up some credible performances in others, but nevertheless, 3 losses in his last 4 bouts. How can David Haye defeat this guy, and before that he turns in a disappointing performance against Vladimir Klitschko? How is the heavyweight division so weak that there are no more deserving challengers who we can just say, oh man, Haye shouldn't be getting a shot before that guy, you know? That's the bigger question, you know? I mean, should hey, be getting a shot? And I suppose the answer is yeah, because the division is really weak. But you know, if he gets the shot, why not take it? I don't know. I just feel David Hayes doing the right thing, you know? You get what I'm saying? That's very provocative for Vitaly Klitschko to offer a, you know, listen, this video's ran for a long time, you know, so I'm going to do the boxing report and get back to you guys tomorrow. Peace out. Peace.